Power creep, by its definition, is described as the situation where successive updates or expansions to a game introduce more powerful units or abilities, leaving the older ones underpowered. This definitely applies to My Hero Ultra Rumble, and has for a good while now. So today, I just wanted to talk about power creep in general, and some of the characters that are suffering from it the most. So please don't forget to subscribe, and let me know down in the comments your thoughts on the whole power creep situation. Now, let's get started. Power creep is something that games that get regularly updated will have to deal with at some point, if not managed properly. A lot of games handle this pretty well, while other games don't do anything about it, and the game becomes more and more busted until people get fed up and stop playing. My Hero Ultra Rumble is in a very weird spot, since the game 100% has power creep, but at the same time Viking are trying to fix this. They are not doing a very good job at this, but it's nice to see them trying. The biggest reason this is happening, in my opinion, is because of how the new characters and skill sets have been handled. For the first few seasons of the game, each type had its own thing. Rapid characters had mobility, but didn't hit as hard. Strike characters hit hard, but had limited mobility. Assault characters had okay damage, but could take a load of hits. And support characters had terrible damage, but could revive a downed teammate. There were some exceptions to this, but this is how it was for the most part. But then around Season 3, Viking started adding characters and quirk skill sets that could do everything. Let's take Full Bullet Deku for example. Number 1, he has good damage, but he is a strike character, so we kind of expected that. Number 2, he has 350 health, which is higher than Yellow Deku, who is an assault character, who only has 300. Number 3, he has his Gamma, which can be used for insane mobility. And number 4, he has a revive mechanic with his special ability, literally giving this one character everything good about each class in the game. And it's not just Full Bullet Deku, there's also Crazy Torch Dabi, Twice, Blue Bakugo, Catastrophe Shigaraki, and these are just some of the characters that have been added since launch. The point I'm trying to make is, since Viking is adding characters and skill sets that can do everything, the characters that can't do everything are being left behind. Now that we've established what is causing the power creep, let's look at some characters that are really suffering from it. Starting with Kirishima. Kirishima is an interesting case because he went from being a mech character to becoming the best in Season 3 when they removed aim assist. Then, when they added aim assist back in Season 4, he has been on a slow decline ever since, and is getting power crept like crazy. There are a couple of reasons for this, like he has no range, so most characters in the game can easily KO him. His attacks can easily be rolled, making it a lot harder to hit enemies. But the main thing that makes Kirishima so power crept is his special action, Hardening. Kirishima is already not that good of a character, unless he is close range, so his special action really helps him keep up with other characters. The problem is that, for some reason, you can easily knock Kirishima out of Hardening. Full Bullet Deku, Crazy Torch Dabi, Ibara, and probably others I haven't even mentioned. The point is, considering that Hardening is Kirishima's whole thing, and the thing that makes him viable, it's wild to me how easy you can take that away from him. A way Viking could buff Kirishima so he isn't as power crept would be to make it so that he cannot be knocked out of Hardening. But the trade-off would be that it either lasts less time or he can't use potions. This might sound kind of overpowered, but it really isn't because, number 1, Kirishima is quite slow when hardened, making it easy for characters to run away from him, even if they don't have a mobility skill. And 2, Kirishima has to get close to do damage, and as we've said, most of the new characters have some kind of skill that also works for mobility, making it very difficult for Kirishima to hit anybody. With this change, I truly believe that we would see more people using Kirishima. Next, we have Dabi, specifically Technical Dabi. Dabi has always been a pretty mediocre character. In the beginning, everybody thought he was overpowered because his alpha track, but people quickly figured out that you could easily roll and avoid it, stopping Dabi from being a threat and doing any real damage. Don't get me wrong, you can still get people with his alpha, but you have to make sure that they are distracted by another enemy. That way, they don't really notice it and they don't roll your alpha. Dabi's playstyle is the main reason for him being so power-crapped. While it's rare, there are some characters in My Hero Ultra Rumble that are supposed to be played kind of like a sniper, and Dabi is the main one. I've seen people say he isn't, but hear me out. His alpha is a long-range projectile that tracks. His beta is traps that he can place anywhere to catch people off guard or protect himself. And his gamma is a ring of fire that damages anybody who enters and blocks all projectiles while active. I don't know about you, but to me, this sounds like a classic sniper type of build. The issue with this is that Dabi is a sniper in a game full of characters that like to get close and fight. And since Dabi can't really compete at close range, he loses most of the time. King did try and give him a buff by changing his special action and giving him a self-revive, which they kind of over-nerfed when it came out, and hasn't been changed since. What I mean by this is, you can't use it when in the storm, which most people will knock you into. You can't use it if you're being attacked, which you will be if you're downed. And the worst part, sometimes you'll use the special action, you'll get the ring of fire around you like normal, but the revive doesn't work. For no reason other than it just doesn't work. This is especially annoying because of how hard it is to actually do most of the time. The one change I would like to see with Dabi to make him more viable would be to make it so that when you get his gamma to level 9, instead of it only damaging enemies when they enter the ring, the whole area inside the ring would do small amounts of constant damage, like maybe 6 damage every tick. This way, Dabi wouldn't be as bad at close range, and would make enemies think before rushing him, because players do that. They see a technical Dabi, they know if they rush him, he can't really do anything to stop them, and then he gets KO'd. Next, we have Ibara. Ibara has always been labelled as the worst character in My Hero Ultra Rumble, and rightly so. Her lack of mobility and her lack of consistency with attacks. She, in my opinion, is still one of the worst characters, which sucks because I really like her character in the anime. Ibara was the first character to suffer from power creep, since she's essentially had it since day one, because of the way her alpha works. It's not a point, shoot, and get damage skill like other characters. Her alpha has to travel in the direction you aim. It wasn't so bad before, but once King started adding characters that had skills that could also be used for mobility, her alpha made it near impossible to hit enemies that were moving. And as more characters that can do that get added, this problem is only going to get worse and worse. King are trying to fix this with Ibara, as we have seen her get multiple buffs since the game's release, like damage buffs, skill cooldown buffs, and one buff that very few characters get. For example, besides Mirio, she's the only other character in the game that can break through skills that can't normally be broken through, like All Might's Gamma, or Mirio's Gamma. These buffs are very good, but they still don't fix Ibara's main problem of not being able to keep up in fights, where the enemy has skills that can also be used for movement. The sad reality is, Ibara will never be able to keep up unless she gets some kind of mobility skill added to her. One idea I had, which I think would definitely help her out, would be to make it so Ibara can shoot her alpha at a surface and have her vines pull her towards where she aimed. Kind of like Uraraka's alpha. This way, she keeps all her skills she had before, but now she has an escape option if needed. I'm sure she will get some kind of fix in the future, I just hope that it's sooner than later. And finally, we have Momo. I put Momo last on the list because even though she is suffering from power creep, she is one of the only characters in this video that can kind of keep up with the meta because of her gamma, the cannons, and the creative ways the players are using these cannons. Some of the reasons Momo is being power crapped is the same as other characters in this video. Lack of mobility, making it near impossible for her to escape a losing fight, the fact that most new characters have some kind of skill that can also be used for mobility, and one of her bigger problems, that even though she is great at fighting close range, and is pretty good at fighting long range, Momo's mid-range combat is non-existent because of the way her skills work. Her alpha is super close range, so characters that fight at mid-range like Bakugo can easily win. Her beta shield is honestly not very good. It hits hard, but is so slow and can easily be dodge rolled that it's not worth using outside of giving yourself cover. And her gamma can be used at mid-range, but you have to aim it. Then you have to have the time for the skill to activate, which takes a good second or so, and by that point, the enemy can see what you're trying to do and just move out of its range. Momo's gamma is really only useful if you use it at groups of enemies that don't know it's coming, or if you're in a close range fight, you can put one down and let it shoot in the area you're fighting in. But in general, none of her skills can help her at mid-range, which a big percent of the characters in the game like to fight at, putting Momo at a huge disadvantage. One of the ways Baiking could try to fix her power creep would be to do a few things with her beta, since I think her alpha and her gamma are fine as they are. The changes I would make would be: 1. I would add the ability to adjust the speed at which you run while using the beta. Like I said earlier, it's so easy to avoid that it's not worth using a lot of the time, but that's because players know the timing for the skill. If we could adjust the speed of the skill as we're using it, it would give Momo more mix options and make the skill less predictable. And the second change I would make to the skill is to add a damage reduction to it while using it. In the first 2 seasons of Ultra Rumble, while Momo was using her beta, she was invincible and took no damage. This was too overpowered and led to setups that were just plain unfair. So Baiking changed it so that Momo could take damage, and it made her beta really bad. But if she took a damage reduction while using the skill, kind of like how Mount Lady does when she uses her special, I think more people would use the skill. But again, this is something that we could hope for when Season 8 drops in like 2 weeks or so. Baiking is clearly trying to fix the power creep issue, since we have seen buffs, like with Strike Shigaraki. He would have been in this video too, but Baiking made a change to him that lets his decay travel up objects like buildings, so now he can actually hold his own against other characters. But the rate at which Baiking are buffing power crept characters is too slow. I'm sure that at the start of Season 8, when we get the big balance changes, all the characters I've mentioned in this video today could get buffs, and hopefully we'll get the buffs that they need to be viable. But yeah guys, my name is Overhaul, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time.